Welcome to a beautiful day in Midwestern state of Ohio, and behind me you will see yet again our project ZHP. Now, in the last video featuring this car, you saw that we painted and we clear coated the bodywork where we performed on the back. We promised you that we were going to wet sand and polish the car, and that is the subject of today's video. Now, there is some contamination on the hood, a little bit of contamination on the bumper, and then of course we've got a similar occurrence out back where we painted and cleared in our garage behind me. So the goal of today's video is to take care of that contamination and to get these panels as smooth as we can get them. Now, the paint work took place on February 16th. The paint has not fully cured, so we are not going to seal the panels. We are going to wet sand. We are going to use rubbing compound to polish. And then lastly, we are going to glaze, which Kitu has told me is safe to do at this point. Now, we are going to scrub the car down so that we are working with a clean surface. We are going to use our clay bar on the panels that we intend to give some attention to. And then we are going to wet sand with 1500 and 2000 grit sandpaper. And then lastly, we are going to use our buffing process or our buffing products that we bought from Chemical Guys when we did our paint correction video. So let's get going. Now we've got our car scrubbed down. I'm not going to go too nuts with cleaning the car off and drying the car and detailing the car like I normally would, because in this process it is going to get washed a few more times before we polish it. I've wiped down the hood, I've wiped down the bumper, and then I've wiped down the portion where we intend to wet sand and correct on the back of the car. We are going to start with our 1500 sandpaper. Now, normally we wouldn't recommend doing something like this in the sun, but it is still relatively cool here on this beautiful day. We've got a high of 76, but right now it's in the high 40s. So we are going to go ahead and wet sand outside, and then as the day starts to heat up, we will move the car back inside to finish the video. It is worth mentioning that we have had our sandpaper soaking in a bucket of clean water overnight. Now, again, before we get into this, we are going to go ahead and clay bar our panels prior to starting to wet sand to remove any additional contamination that we're able to remove. Now that we've got our panel thoroughly cleaned, we are going to get started with our 1500 grit ultrafine sandpaper. As we start to wet sand, we are going to keep our panel wet, and we are going to work our panel in small sections. So we are inside. We've got our fenders covered that we don't really want to get any polish on or any sort of our work compound. We are going to use exclusively Chemical Guys products. We are going to use their Torque 15 orbital polisher, and then we are going to use a series of their pads and a series of their compounds. We are going to start with their medium cutting pad and C4, which is their clear cut polish, and we're going to see if that gets us the results that we're after. The C4 did a really nice job, so we're gonna get cracking on the rest of the hood. All right, so we have made actually a few passes with the C4. We have our paint pretty smooth and pretty clean, and now we are going to follow that up with their P4, which is their perfection polishing compound. So let's get going. Now, we spared you all the process of polishing the bumper because this is just a tedious process to get the finished product right. We've got our hood, our bumper, and the back of our car polished. We are going to go with our last step, which is a glaze, and for that we are going to use the wet mirror finish, again by Chemical Guys. We are going to use their glazing pad. And the glazing process does not take very long. But one thing I want to address is when people ask, why does a detail cost so much? It is currently 10:30 and we have been at this since 7 o'clock this morning. All we have done is the hood, the bumper, and then that back panel back there that you saw in our previous video. We are going to show you the results of this when we are done. But for the time being, we're gonna glaze. So we've got all of our panels glazed. Our paint is pretty smooth and we are gonna show it to you outside in the sun. And so that is a wrap on the wet sand and polish of our bumper, our hood, and then of course that rear valance panel. Again, I am a novice. If you are a professional, I hope I didn't offend you, but I have gotten pretty good results considering that I have had very limited practice at doing something like this. Now, stay tuned because we are getting ready to send this car back to storage for a while, but before we do that, we are going to give you an update and a walk around. We are going to show you everything that we have done to this car to this point. And when we bring this car back from storage, we are going to attack our sagging headliner, and then we are currently shopping quotes to get our pretty rough wheels refinished. We are going to do a full paint correction on the entire car, and then we are going to ceramic coat it. This is not something we are going to drive too terribly often, but we are going to enjoy it. We are also looking at getting some of the panels covered in paint protection film, so we will just see where it ends up. We want to thank everybody that's come along the way on this project. I want to thank my good friend Dareth. I want to thank Angel. I want to thank Monica with the Detail Garage in Buford, Georgia, because if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have known how to do anything that we have done in today's video. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you like the E46 platform, if you like eclectic automotive content, or if you just like cars in general. And we'll talk to you next time.